all you Oak Cliff natives, we're talking about starting in Oak Cliff. So, we're on the other side of the river. And the joke about that is when you'd say, oh, yeah, where are you from? Oak Cliff. They'd go, oh, it was Oak Cliff. Oh.
And then they turn around and walk away.
You're listening to Building Dallas by Arrington Roofing.
There's never been an easy deal in real estate. Well, Judge taught us these are not competitors. These are cooperators. And that's the way we've always looked at it. And I'm watching the farms out to Kaufman, past Kaufman. They're turning into homeowners, home development. I worry about building the schools that take care of that. I worry about people not owning those homes, but it's selling to investors. And I don't want to see that, but that's what I see. The words that guide Jan Miller are the same words, actually, that we finally figured out to base our company on, and that is honesty and integrity, do the right thing.
From sunrise commutes to stormy nights, from tough builds to big ideas, we're shaping the future of North Texas, one story at a time. Welcome to Building Dallas.
So this is our podcast at Arrington Roofing called Building Dallas, and today we have Jan Fite Miller, who's been with is a Fite, who's been in the real estate business in Dallas since
1968. I got my license.
1960. But when was how about before? When did Judge start? Which is your dad?
Yes, Judge is my dad. He claimed to have started in 1937, but then the war started in 1941. So there was a hiatus there.
Okay.
And then he came back and went straight into business.
And kept doing it. And back then, wasn't he doing farms?
No, back then you did everything.
Oh, okay.
And because think back how rural Dallas still was.
Yeah,
and
I know it was kind of a smaller. Boy, and we're big now. Going out to Duncanville was a trip.
Exactly, and you saw horses and cows and everything just on the way to Duncanville.
Yeah,
and we never thought anything, excuse me, about selling a house in Midlothian from Oak Cliff, and Midlothian was the sticks.
Oh, yeah.
And I eventually lived there, so.
Okay, yeah. And so we're talking about all you Oak Cliff natives. We're talking about starting in Oak Cliff. So, we're on the other side of the river. And the joke about that is when you'd say, oh, yeah, where are you from? Oak Cliff. They'd go,
oh.
Oh, it was Oak Cliff. Oh.
And then they turn around and walk away.
Is it safe? Is it safe to go on?
Oh, I had, at one point when our company was, we were the prime size for other companies to buy. And so we were being approached over and over. That was in the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
And one of the guys that interviewed us for a company that will remain unnamed asked me if I had to carry a gun. And I was so totally insulted, but I've never forgotten it.
Did you say like this one? That might need to get edited out. But I went to Texas Tech, so I can do that. So Jan is the executive vice president of Century 21, Judge Fite, that nowadays is not the 8 employees back on Davis Boulevard way back in the day. There's, what's my notes, 900 or so Realtors employee. Well, it's not employees.
Well, some of them are. We have employees, at least 150.
Okay, 150 employees, and how many Realtors?
It's somewhere between 1,500. It's 1,500 people, basically.
Wow. Okay.
1,100 Realtors to 1,200. All that.
And you guys are, from what I understand, number one, Century 21, this last year for how many years in closing?
Well, we're number one in a 5-state region. Oh. We are, and Century 21 looks at things as how much money you bring in to them. And it's hard to beat California and the East Coast in money.
Right.
But then we usually are in the top 3 in units.
Wow.
So you sell a lot more properties in order to make money in places like Texas or Iowa or Indiana. Right. Indiana is one that always gives us a run for our money.
Really?
And who'd think of that?
I never thought about Indiana. So units being a property. Okay, so Jan, tell me about. Well, Jan was just telling me she's trying to slow down. She's been trying to slow down for about 12 years. But what have you done in your? Tell me what you've done in your career.
In my career, I sold for a while. I got out of real estate when I got married the first time in 1972 because I was sole support of the family and scared because we were probably in a recession about that time. Who knows? We've seen a lot of them. And I was just scared. And I worked in an architectural firm for 15 months as an executive secretary. And my aunt, who was Daddy's temporary secretary starting in 1947, and she left in about 81. But she was a temporary secretary. She was an aunt. So it's a family business.
Yeah.
When she was past retirement age, because she was 81 at the time, Judge said, she's going to retire and I'm going to need some help. And you could make more money in my business with referrals than you could doing what you're doing as a secretary. And I said, you're right. And it's family business. Yes, I'll come help. And so I went back into basically the administrative side at that time. And then I started having kids. I went back it was 1975 when I went back into real estate full time. Okay. And then in late 77, I started having kids, and they let me work at home. And so I did as bookkeeper by that time, too. And so I kept the books until 82 and was in charge of budgeting and all that kind of stuff. And we needed a manager in 82. Jim had already moved to Duncanville, I think. I think he did at that time. And so in 92, I came back as manager of Oak Cliff. And I managed Oak Cliff till we went into Century 21 in 93.
Okay, 93.
No, we had our first merger in 93, and we bought a Remax company out of Duncanville.
Yeah, because I worked for the Fites for a while. Yeah, y'all had a Duncanville office when I was there, so middle 80s. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I always remember that the Remax office felt like we were a little company from Oak Cliff buying them, and it was like, I remember for several reasons, but they said it was like 7-Eleven buying a Neiman Marcus. And since Neiman Marcus is making the headlines right now because they've been sold a long time ago to Broadway Hale, I think it was. But so we faced that, and then in '97 we joined Century 21, and the only way we could ever move past just Southwest Dallas County, because the judge had tried a couple of times to move across the river, we knew we needed a bigger name than just Judge Fite Company. So Century 21 offered us an opportunity, and we went with them, and we have just really grown like gangbusters since that time.
Yeah. So not 97. So then what office did you start with in 97?
In 97,
were you buying other companies?
Yes. Well, merging, buying.
Yeah.
We were the ones that ended up being in charge of them. 97, we bought, it was out of Carrollton. It was a Century 21, a big office. They had a Plano office, maybe 2 Plano offices, and Carrollton office. Carrollton was their head. And the Grand Prairie franchise owner found out about this merger, and he said, and we already had a little office in Grand Prairie. So he came to us and he said, if you're going to move into Grand Prairie, I want to come with you too. And Randy McCracken was a wonderful friend, man, he's a great guy that sold to us in 93. We tripled the size of the company that day. It was scary.
Okay, and you know what? So that leads me to, because I remember when I was there in the 80s, it seemed like, because I didn't have any experience with anybody else, you guys did a lot of training, and so
we still do.
Yeah, and so that kind of, I might have spoiled the answer a little bit, but it seemed like you guys, even being a small office, would attract the best people. But just expand on that, because you don't always attract the best people. I'm sure you had to sift through people, but how did you guys get really good people?
Well, Judge was so active in the real estate industry, because you had mentioned, I think before, it was Farm and Ranch and NAR and TAR, and he was a Texas realtor.
Those are the national...
That's Texas Association of Realtors and National Association of Realtors. And he just kept growing that way. But he realized early on that if we don't have good people in this industry, it's not going anywhere. And so we just were centered on training. And he centered on it, and therefore raised us up to center on it too. And I was a trained teacher. I got my degree in French. Didn't help me at all in real estate. But
bonjour.
Merci. In any case, it just kind of evened out that probably about the time you were there, I started training. Well, in 1982, I started training. And the training has just evolved, and Dallas Morning News several years ago named us as the best training company in DFW.
Okay.
Number one, best training company.
That is huge. So do you get, what feedback do you get from your people on their training? Because I'm sure they'll come and go, thank you. Or
those surveys that are sent out to people all the time, our people just brag on our training. And Judge used to say that he trained everybody in Oak Cliff to be his competitors, and they'd go out on their own then. But at least they knew how to do the business right. And we did. And we've just always done that.
That is running my own business. That is the scary part. You train someone how to do something so well. And if they're really ambitious, they're your competitor.
They go out on their own.
But so that's another interesting thing. But in real estate, you cooperate a lot on your sales. So Judge, talk about that a little bit.
Judge
people
taught
that have
us.
gone on.
Well, Judge taught us these are not competitors. These are cooperators. And that's the way we've always looked at it.
Those are his words. They're not competitors.
They're cooperators.
They're cooperators. Oh, I like that.
And that's in real estate. That is exactly what we do. And you've got to be nice to them.
Yeah, because you are such a cooperative industry, I can see how other firms might be going, hey, use us, but I owe a lot to the Fite for helping me get here.
And our past agents tell us that.
Yeah.
And usually they have too much pride to come back. That's the sad part to us. We know grass always looks greener, but it's not always.
Yeah. Well, so you probably will have some people that go out on their own and come back.
Some people do, yes.
Yeah.
And what's interesting and what I'm really proud of is that the brokers that we have bought their companies, almost all of them are still with our company if they're still alive.
Okay.
And granted, we've carried a lot. We've covered a lot of years.
So when you're buying a company, just for people who aren't familiar with buying businesses, a lot of times the owner's like, man, I'm done. I'm out of here. But it sounds like when you buy it, there's a comfort that comes with it, and they go, well, I think I'll stay around because they're going to do it right. They're going to take care of my business that I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in, and it's not, probably doesn't feel like, I hate to say, New York corporate where they just take over and everybody's a number.
We don't use the word corporate in our company. It's we don't have a corporate office. We have a client service center. And I mean, that's from the beginning.
Yeah.
We're not corporate, we're family.
At that size, Jan, that's hard to do.
It's hard. And I always tell people, at 400 people, I knew everybody's name. I could call them by name. I knew their faces. We've gotten bigger now, and I'm not in the office since COVID. I don't go in the office as much. It just happened that way. They didn't give me an office anymore. But
they pushed you out. What?
But in any case, I don't. There's so many new ones. I just can't keep up. My brain won't handle it anymore.
Okay, so let me ask you this: from the '80s, obviously changed a lot. But what's some of the biggest changes you've seen over, whatever, the last 40, 50 years in real estate? I know one, I'll prime it a little bit. When I was there with you guys, realtors worked on their own, and now it's team this, team that, and I don't know if people really understand that change. I would think that would have been pretty big.
It is big. It still is big. And you've watched the different companies that had these ideas. To me, the team started in RE/MAX. Commissions changed with RE/MAX, and then Keller Williams took it a step further because they share their profits and things like that. And their agents are basically they're rewarded in lots of ways. We reward ours for helping recruit other agents, but Keller Williams got really good at that and have grown like crazy. The teams, though, are people that they are ambitious. They think that they know they can do this job by themselves, but they like the security of a broker that trains their people, knows the rules, and they're a small business within a bigger business. That's all it comes down to.
Okay.
And they are responsible. The team leader is responsible. He has to go to the broker responsibility training, just like we do. But he's there so that he knows that the broker is going to still back him up. Mm-hmm. Everything still stops with the broker. But, the National Association had a huge lawsuit this last year, probably last 3 years. And it was all about who pays commissions. I could have solved it in the very beginning. I started
They should have asked you, Jan, what should we do?
I just would have said, guys, there's a rule that I learned in real estate years ago. Buyers never have enough money. So they can't afford to pay commissions. And I proved it over and over again years ago. So, okay, Mr. Seller, you need to pay the commission. Somebody's got to pay it if you want to sell the house. And the argument is that buyers pay it. They pay it in their mortgage because they mortgage the house for more. Is it still worth it? Yes, it has to appraise. You know the real estate business.
Right.
So I've been really sad that the Department of Justice and NAR got into this conflict. And in Texas, we trained, in all over Texas, we trained our people better. And I don't think we have that. We have not had that same problem in Texas that they had in the other areas. Northeast, but Kentucky filed a bunch of lawsuits.
Oh man!
So
on that point, there's problems. Every business is there because they solve a problem. So I'm just getting a little more generic on, but still tell me the Judge Fite flavor of what problem or what hurdle are you there to do for your client? What does a realtor, what does a Judge Fite realtor do for a client that they need them?
We serve, and we help them make it's a puzzle to me. It always has been. We help them find the right house. And this is the right ranch, the right building, whatever. We help them find that. So that's one. We handle the legal parts of putting it under contract. If it gets too big, we hire the attorneys, or we don't hire them. The parties hire the attorneys, but we want attorneys involved. We know when we're over our head. And it just reminded me, I remember having $1 million contract, maybe, or $1.3 million the first time, and I said, we're not handling anything that big. But the Texas Association of Realtors won't allow that to be tried in that you can't file a claim against a realtor for a commission with Texas Association or Metrotex here in Dallas. They won't handle it because it's too big. It's got to be handled in the courts, and that's where it should be handled. Now, back to your question, which I lost.
What you're doing for your clients. What would they get in trouble if they didn't have a realtor helping them?
They would. We saw so much here in Oak Cliff that people bought houses on contract for deed. I mean, this is the old days. But they bought them on contract.
Contract for...
You don't even say those words anymore.
Well, what is contract for deed?
It's a house that you buy, but the deed is never transferred to you. Therefore, the landlord, or the one who still holds the deed, collects the money, either doesn't pay the mortgage or he does pay the mortgage. If he gets in trouble, though, he's going to use your rent money in his name to pay his water bill or whatever. And so suddenly he decides that there are all kinds of rules in it. It was very unfair. And this was back when I got into real estate. Judge would not let us sell a contract for deed. But we had to deal with other people that sold that way. And they took advantage of poor people specifically and would then foreclose on them. And they got all the money of all that equity the original seller did. And
so it's kind of like they're selling it to someone, they think they're buying it, but
they're not.
They don't have title with title.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
huge. What title is so important. And we have our own title company now because title companies have always run by rules, and they've always been great. We've always had a very cooperative relationship with them. At the same time, if you don't ever use title, and there are a lot of attorneys, that allow people to do things that aren't quite right, and especially back late 60s, early 70s, they were doing that rampantly. And slumlords, it was crazy for a long time.
So, how are they? I don't want to go down a rabbit trail chasing, but how would an attorney? So an attorney's supposed to do anything by the law, but they're they know how to get around it too. Is it?
No, they're not. It's not illegal unless there was something put in a deed of trust, which started in 1968, I think, in Texas, that you could not. That there's a due on sale clause for all sales.
Yeah.
In the mortgage-driven deed of trust.
It sounds to me, I'll put it in my words, because you're so close to this, that as a realtor, you're giving your intellectual property to your clients because there's lots of snares and traps that you could get caught in if someone's not guiding you through this, and you get to the other end, you think you're okay, but you go, well, no, not really. I mean, is that kind of...
That's the way it used to be. And, I mean, think of the Old West. I mean, it used to be the Old West. And sometimes even I've heard that term used since this lawsuit. But again, we had already trained our people to know what to do about buyer representation. If they did it, they covered up if they didn't do it by having the right form signed at the very end, where we had always trained them. as soon as you meet a buyer, you have him sign a buyer rep, or as soon as you can. And the IABS came in 1996, and for years I trained new agents that your biggest problem is you're dealing with old agents like me that didn't do it right in the first place, or we didn't have those same rules. So we do it by our old rules instead of the new.
So rules change.
Rules change.
And you guys have to keep up
constantly.
Continuing education.
Amen.
Right. Not just from you, but are there because in it, Texas Real Estate Commission requirements
that the brokers stay informed and inform their agents about everything that comes down the pike. And
but the agents have to take classes on their own, right?
Well, we offer the classes.
Okay.
In-house.
But it's not just the brokers that are taking classes.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Everybody, to renew your license, you have to take, I think it's 18 hours. Brokers have to do stuff different, and I don't have to remember those things. That's something my brother remembers, which I'm going to say right now. I am not the spokesperson of the company. I am here because Chris Arrington invited me.
She was very nice to accept. And we probably
friend.
ought to get Jim. I don't know. He might be a little bit busier because you're not in the office as much anymore. So, Jan, what's going on today? This is the question that just came into my mind because I'm looking over here at one of my kids. How are young people buying houses these days? You guys grew up in Kessler Park. I still live in Kessler Park. We've gone from, I'll say it, I bought my house in the $100,000 range. Put another zero behind it. Now, I wouldn't sell my house for less than $1 million plus. Easy. I don't even have to repaint it. How are they? Is that just blow your mind?
Yes, it blows my mind. And I fought. I was appointed to represent NAR with our congressman. That actually he represents Lakewood and Points East, where I live. But to fight with him, and it was because I stood up at a meeting and he said he wanted to do away with FHA at the time. FHA has the lowest down payment for John Doe off the street. I think it's 3.5% down. And at that point, he was saying the people will just have to save 20% down and get their conventional mortgages. And I said, young people can't. And homeownership does more for our country. I promise you, it does. It is the American dream still. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard on first-time homebuyers, young kids, but there's more equity with parents. You could probably loan one of your kids money. I'm not telling you to, but people do that.
Yeah.
Go to mom and dad because they've got equity in their houses if they've stayed there. So there are still ways to buy, and I still am pushing home ownership. And I'll give you an example because you know Oak Cliff. In 1978, the Dallas Board of Realtors bought a house in Kidd Springs, one of those old, big prairie-style houses. And Kidd Springs was rough.
Yeah.
We fixed it up, remodeled, painted, really fixed up the house. And Jim was head of that committee, I think, that year, and I was on it as a gopher. But I met the contractors over at that house in the cold and everything. And I wasn't even active, and I remember I had a baby on my hip. But that turned that whole neighborhood around. Drive through Kidd Springs now. It became a historic district or a planned unit development, whatever. And it's just been freed. And from Kidd Springs came Bishop Arts redo. And anybody can look at Bishop Arts. And I was serving on it was a liaison company between the police department and the city council. Some mayor thought that I could do that. And
You did
Anyway, but what we pushed at that time was we demanded them to put a police station, a sidewalk police station that is still there on Bishop Street.
Right. I remember that.
And that is what started turning it around. And luckily, we had a developer that believed in it too, in Jim Lake. Mm-hmm. And he helped. I mean, that place is just going crazy. Well, it doesn't even look like the same place.
Reese, my second oldest son, when he came in today, he goes, "Dad, guess who I saw at the coffee shop?" And I guessed a bunch of people. He said, "Jim Lake Jr." Because Jim Lake Jr. still lives. He lives right by Stevens Park Golf Course. Oh, well, should I say that? Anyway, you can edit that. I don't want to tell people where Jim lives, but yeah, and they're still involved in this area. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good to know, because, I have young people all the time like, "Oh, gosh, I'll never own a house." And I go, "No, you can do it.
Or buy a condo." And I lived through all these apartments that became condos. But I was going to say, if you ask me questions, and you haven't yet, but let me just say, when I got into real estate, it was 1969, actually, when I graduated from college. And the city planning department of SMU had done a study on Oak Cliff. And they said at that time that all these two-story buildings on Jefferson and all that, you'll have lofts up above, and the whole area around Lake Cliff is going to go high-rise. Well, baby, look at it today. Yeah. It took 50 years to do it, but we're there.
Yeah. I didn't know that. They've done a study on that.
Yeah, nobody else knows it either, but I remember it well because I was starting out then.
So, are there any other projects going on in the Dallas area? Because you guys are all over the Metroplex now.
We're in Oklahoma now. Did you know that?
No. Seriously?
Seriously.
Not just Denison, not just Denton.
No,
but Oklahoma.
Oklahoma City, we have 5 offices. That it's been in the last maybe 18 months.
Wow.
Last year for sure. That just an opportunity there. A man that wanted to sell, and we were able to buy him. So
that's awesome. So
good people up there too.
Since we're building Dallas, and maybe we'll get to Oklahoma someday. What are there any projects going on in Dallas or in the real estate field today? What's going on? I mean, I'm living in a little bubble here, and there's lots of apartments being built. But what you have a little higher view of what's the Dallas real estate market? What is it?
To me, it is going to be changing like crazy. And a lot of it is what's going to happen politically, because I don't know. And I can tell where I live at Cedar Creek Lake. The traffic from Cedar Creek Lake, when I moved out there 16 years ago to today, it's at least doubled, if not tripled.
Okay.
And I saw just in the last, and I'm not being political, I'm not playing politics, I'm just saying with the open border, we have 10,000 more people in Dallas-Fort Worth every month. 10,000 more people.
Every month?
Every month. This was projected until 2030, in spite of the political climate. And I'm watching the farms out to Kaufman, past Kaufman, they're turning into homeowners, home development. It is.
Oh, okay.
I went to Forney.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Forney was what you drove through on Highway 80, Highway 20, with antique shops up and down. No more. It is houses. They have a huge high school in North Forney, which is north of that.
Yeah.
My granddaughter's teaching school in the area south of 20, but she's paid by Crandall ISD, but it's really kind of Forney.
And not just, but it's not just starter homes.
No, they're big. They're nice big stuff. Houses. Yeah.
Okay.
big houses. So you've got urban sprawl, but I worry about building the schools that take care of that. I worry about people not owning those homes, but it's selling to investors. And I don't want to see that, but that's what I see.
So,
And becoming a rental market, a rental country instead of a homeowner country.
okay, I've heard some people talk about this. I'd kind of like to know from you. Yeah, so, and it's a lot of young people are like, oh, this company or that company, they're buying up all the houses. Well, what's the real deal? I mean, I know what a neighborhood looks like that's pretty much a rental neighborhood, but you're talking about, no, this doesn't look like a rental neighborhood, and you're saying there's lots of rentals?
Yes, I'm saying that. Lots of them. And even I have 5 rent houses. I'm not a big landowner or anything, but I had to sell one after COVID. You know, they put the you can't evict a tenant that doesn't pay their rent, and you can't evict them. You just keep making the house payments and so forth. And if they tear it up, too bad. So I spent a lot of money fixing up the house that I got no rent on for 2 years almost. And I was one of the few that our property management department just couldn't get this girl out or pay the rent because of the laws. In any case, I sold that house, and it went to one of those big companies because they were the highest bidder.
Yeah.
I had 3 contracts. They were the highest. If they're going to win because they know that the rental market is where it is, I worry about that.
Yeah. Okay.
And my kids are a little bit older than your kids, so they've all got their homes.
Well, my kids are
still,
almost older than me now. Aren't yours catching up?
Oh, yeah, like crazy.
That's okay. That's a little bit scary because
It is.
you got young people competing with deep pockets.
It's
for
hard.
property. And now, and then now you say open borders, but I hear, I don't care.
Oh, California.
North, California, east, middle of the country, they're moving here.
Amen.
Why are they moving here?
Asians are moving because property in Texas and really the middle of the country is cheaper than you can get it in California and the East Coast and the West Coast. So
Okay.
California and the Northeast.
So middle of the country is just more affordable.
Absolutely. Always has been.
And we're probably, besides Chicago, we're the southern anchor. They're the northern anchor. Is that kind of?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So we're getting a lot. Because I see it. I mean, gee, I live a mile from the office. Sometimes I go, I'm not going to go up Sylvan. It's just too dang crowded. I'm going a little side street to go 1 mile. It's crazy.
It is. And that's what we're facing, though. And I live on a golf course down there, and they want the golf course. There are some people in the area that want the golf course to go belly up so that they can build houses on it.
Oh, gosh.
Which
Okay.
just makes me sad. But
Yeah, so you're losing some of the space. I was just watching something the other day, and then we're talking about architecture. You need space. We need space.
And we need green space.
We go to New York a lot, and I'm always, after about 3 days, I'm ready to come back. So I go, I just want to. I just want space because I don't want to hit somebody on the sidewalk again.
You
I
don't
just
want
want
to
to.
see. You got to see the sky. Texans have to see the sky. That's what.
Yes. So, but are there? Because we're talking, and we're at my office, and we're a mile from downtown. Now, I see a lot of people moving in town. You're talking about urban sprawl.
They're moving. They're moving everywhere, and to me, if we could get all these high-rise apartments that are coming in to end up being condos, which they did to the apartments years ago, that was a disaster, but they still did it. They're run by volunteer HOA managers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That has its problems. But if we could turn these into condos someday, to me, that's still home ownership no matter what. So you care about whether the garage has pit holes in it or, somebody knocked the column down. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
Or the swimming pool on the roof is leaking, things like that. somebody's got to fix that.
Okay.
And so you've got to have some organization and bureaucracy around that. But still, that's just my dream, but I won't live to see it. So,
are you involved, or do you see anything with, kind of back to building Dallas, parks and maybe legislative stuff? Is there anything that you see that's like, yeah, yay, we're doing this in Dallas, or I wish we were doing this, or your opinion?
I'm not sure that we're doing enough. I'm sure they're doing some. And I swore I'd never be political, but suddenly it's who is your representative here, who's on your city council. It really is important. And again, I don't live in Dallas anymore, and I realized I'm not worried about who runs Dallas anymore, but I should be. Yeah. Jim is. I'll let him do that. But it is important who is representing you and who you have contact with. You know, the city councilman and Charles Semos or Chris Semos, was a neighbor. Bob Stinson was a neighbor when I lived here. Mm-hmm. And
Charles Tandy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was pretty interested in the. You guys will tell you this because it covered a lot of ground.
This has been awesome. I haven't even looked at my notes yet. I'm just.
What time is it?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's
We've been going for 50 minutes.
Yeah, we've been
really
going for 50 minutes for sure. Yeah.
I feel like I'm ready to start answering. I'm ready to start asking the question.
No, you guys could do. Actually, there's a few things that I think would be great to go back to, which is, I'm interested selfishly. Like I think that for me, it's like I'm not worried about the viewers. I want us here.
Here we go.
I just am interested in the family side of things because you guys. I worked with Dale Carnegie. They were one of my clients for years. Watching them with their training, whatnot.
That's the first training I ever went to.
Yeah, and
I remember y'all had Dale Carnegie's book.
Yeah, and so Dale Carnegie was one of the things, and just the whole training mentality of the business. It's like a bit old school, but it's also not old school. It's just, because he was like the legendary trainer. So you guys have.
Do we still give his books away, especially to people that can't get along with each other?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, go play in the sand. Learn how to play in the sandbox.
I love it.
Dude,
we learned everything in kindergarten. Everything that I need to know, I learned in kindergarten.
Pretty much. So anyways, I'm interested in the family business. I'm interested in just the.
The history of the Judge Fite family, kind of.
Not the history, more like just the. Okay,
what it's like to work with my brother?
Yeah, I'll give you a good analogy that Steve Jobs used. Basically, there's a lot of hard rocks that you put into one of those little grinders and you start spinning them around. So there's the conflict that happens that actually makes the polished stone. And so I think that concept is worthwhile, like diving into.
Oh.
You got all the family members, and how have you seen your family change for the better or for worse because of the business and that conflict?
Oh yeah, Jan, here's my question,
yeah.
Jan. What was it like growing up and with the family business? It's tough.
It's a blessing. It really is. Y'all make me cry.
Well, yeah, you've got so much of a rich. I mean, I remember sitting with Dean, is your mom, and I'll tell a story. I'm sitting there, I don't know what I'm doing because I'm coming as an architect. And I go, but I want to do real estate. I really wanted to build stuff. It's what I wanted to do. But I knew you guys. I knew this would be a safe place to go. I was very interested in real estate. I had probably 15 or 18 hours of real estate when I graduated from college. And so I'm sitting there one day in the little office in Davis, just looking at my day timer thinking, man, I don't know what am I doing? And I turned to Dean, and she has this just a little day timer, and she's turning the page and she's making a phone call and she talked with somebody and then she turned the page and she's making a phone call. And I go, what are you doing? And I don't remember her exact words, but she was just calling people and how are you doing? And what, it was almost like she wasn't really working, but she was selling.
She was selling.
She sold more than anybody. And
never
she
took
wasn't
credit.
trying. I mean, it was almost disheartening. Like, here's this older woman, and I'm young and energetic, and she beating the pants off of me, but she just was calling people. What is that? Was that your mom? Was she
that
just?
Was my mom, and mother was very shy. People don't realize it.
No.
She was I always described her as the wind beneath Daddy's wings. She was the backbone of the company, actually. Daddy was, he was a Mensa member, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
But he was so ethereal, way up there, that he didn't care about business. Mother cared about business. Mother pushed us to open the Duncanville office. But she did it just, what she was doing was calling people she knew. And Judge taught us, you ask them if they know one person that might be buying or selling a house, might need to buy or sell a house. Was it for them or for their kids or for their next door neighbor who just had a baby? It was just networking. Networking was the next term probably of what we were doing. Recruiting calls. We recruit for agents. We recruit for business. And we still teach this. It's the same basics in our business as it was when Mother and Daddy were doing it.
So when you...
I wanted to hear why did that touch you when I was talking about... I wanted to hear what we were thinking about.
Oh, she's
You'll make
gonna
me
start
cry
crying.
again.
Okay. So not cry.
I got to work with my mother for 62 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And she was still making phone calls at age 94. She didn't lose her touch until 10 days before she died.
Wow.
And she would pick up the phone and call these people and just talk to them. And she'd call us later. She gave up her license years before. She'd call, Jan, so-and-so is about to sell their house. Get somebody over there. And she was blind. And so the telephone became, by that time she was blind, and it became her life, really, her lifeline to the outside world. But she enjoyed it. And Judge did too. He just did it. Judge did it on a different level. He did it in the state, and I guess he was playing politics within the real estate industry, actually, trying to get his thoughts and his ideas across to them.
Because he was more involved in the politics and the national associations.
He
liked that.
He liked it, and but he did those classes. He trained in those classes. He trained people to say, get on the phone and call people. Just network. Be nice to people. I've always said realtors get paid for being friendly and for caring. And you asked me a minute ago, you said something, and it's, what do realtors do? We serve. We go above the call to give better service. Who gives better service? I think I do. Our realtors do. But it's the girl I talked to this morning said, I've got a problem. I would have to get to solve all the pieces of this problem, putting this closing together. It's a divorce. She would have to close the wife in Granbury, where she lives now. She'd drive to Granbury from Dallas, 6 o'clock in the morning, drive to the papers, to Lindale, which is out by Tyler, for their closing, and then because he needs his money out of the divorce to go and close a house in Galveston that afternoon. That's a trick.
Yeah.
It's real tricky. And you've got so many pieces that go into that puzzle. And the realtor's job is to put the puzzle together.
and make sure everybody doesn't freak out
Right. And
gets their money.
There's never been an easy deal in real estate. And Jim always hates me to use the word deal, but that's what they are. You're making a deal, and you're working with all these different players, and you've got to piece it all together.
Right.
And it's the title company, the lenders, the inspectors, the roofers, all the pieces have to fit, and they have to fit properly and on time, or somebody's going to get their feelings hurt or get mad or not get paid on time. Something like that is going to happen, and the realtors are there to try to keep everybody calm and everybody moving forward.
Right.
And if somebody doesn't do their job, then you do it for them, and they get credit, and you just keep going.
And now you've touched on something that affects Arrington Roofing quite a bit, and that's that, because pretty much we've talked about the professional part of real estate and the legal and the documents and all that stuff, and taking care of people, but the product is also something you guys have to manage. You're not hammering and nailing and putting pipes, well, maybe
sometimes
putting pipes together. That's stuff that we do at Arrington Roofing, because we work with you guys a lot, and sometimes my guys come in and it's like, I hope, the realtors calling this person, that person, everything. I hope I'm not getting in the way. And so I tell my guys, well, they're managing a lot of people. So on our side, it's like, give them as much help as you can, as early as you can, because I don't think people realize this. A lot of your explanations have been at the time of closing, when it all comes together, and there's the bank that says they want one more
document.
You're like,
signed in blue ink.
Yes, or the insurance company says, because this happens, we're not going to insure the house because the roof's too old or has something on it, and all that kind of stuff. So I've told my guys, let's do our stuff as early as we can.
Absolutely.
So they don't have to worry about that. But the product is also something you guys have to deal with. You get your inspection, and then what?
Well, then you negotiate. And how bad is one plug in one room that doesn't work quite right compared to the wall thing that has to be replaced?
Mm-hmm.
And is this a big deal? Is this a reason? The little plug, is that the reason you don't want to buy this house? No, you don't have to worry about that. We'll get it fixed. And you negotiate with seller, you got to get that fixed. So
and there
we
could
are the
be
go-between.
a lot of things on
amen.
Even just a simple house. We're not talking about a major building.
No.
We're talking about a house. What? 1 to 50 items that you're going.
Shoot, the inspection reports are 30 pages long now.
Yes. Yeah. And you guys have to know somebody. I mean, that's another thing. And you guys, we haven't really talked about, there's so many things we could talk about. But you guys have maybe just talk about it a little bit. You guys have a network of contractors. Basically, it's mainly, there's title companies and there's other professional.
There's
but you
got,
tell us about, you guys developed when
we bought the Remax company in 93, they already had that going in the southwest suburbs. And an old real estate broker named Jean Tutt, now deceased, but she had started it and she had put it together for that company. She wasn't the broker, but she had time and she realized the importance of that. And one of her granddaughters still works in our company. But she had it pretty well established for that little area. So we just added people to it all along, and we had to sell it's an advertising thing, really. That's what the network is. You pay to be in it, and it's an advertising fee, and you have to worry about RESPA, where the laws come in and the legal part. We can't sell it any way except as advertising, but some advertiser wants a full-page ad, so he pays more than somebody that gets an inch ad. It's just like the newspaper and advertising. So, again, but you could very easily cross the RESPA line, which, Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. That's
okay. So the organization or the advertising that you have is a lot of contractors that are advertising. You're saying advertising with you, but it's for your agents to have qualified contractors to call, because in our business there is no licensing, there's no continuing education, there's no nothing. Somebody wants to be a roofer, they just say they're a roofer, and they come by and they're storm chasers and stuff like that, and we teach our agents, again, training, we teach our agents, you don't deal with people like that. You deal with reputable people that are going to be around. Because I don't know how many times we've had to deal with a roof that's been, they've got a guarantee, but the people that did it are out of business and gone to Kentucky or somewhere. Yeah, you can't find them. Yeah, so that is really another big thing where our industries really mesh, in that your fiduciary responsibility is to your client to help them get this property that was built by contractors, but as they age, they need more work, to have a stable of good contractors that you can refer them to. Nobody's perfect, everything doesn't go like it should, but it seems like you guys have done a really good job. Again, gosh, we're going back to getting good people. Well, we are. We're going back to, I want to go back to family. We deal with people we know we can trust. Honesty above everything else. You don't fudge on stuff. You don't find out that they had termites and you don't disclose that. Disclose. It's Jan's second law of real estate. Yeah. Yeah, the Judge Fite business isn't around since what you said, 1937. We are the 37? Oldest residential real estate company in DFW. Wow. Doesn't happen if you just No, that's what I was going to go into. It's family, but family creates the foundation for stability. Yeah. And it does. I like that. What are the words that guide you? The words that guide Jan Miller are the same words, actually, that we finally figured out to base our company on, and that is honesty and integrity, do the right thing. And it covers everything. And, I don't know how many grandchildren you may or may not have, but I got 3 beautiful little girls. I have 18. What? And if children lie, they make up things. Some of it's imagination, and some of it they're trying to get away with something. Mm-hmm. Nothing will make me guilty. Yeah, nothing will make me madder though than one of my kids to lie to me. You don't do that, mm-hmm. And it goes into business. You don't lie. Truth is always better. Lord, I get tired of saying that. I live next door to 4 grandchildren, and one lives upstairs, so that's number 5. But that's really the basis. As far as real estate, it is disclose. And people say, what does that mean? And I said, you tell everything you know, and you tell it soon. And I can tell you, in all of my 56 years, that there are 2 things that I omitted. And that's a lie. And I didn't like it. And I still remember them. I mean, they're like scars on my back. And one, the mother-in-law of the seller, who was my friend from grade school, because, again, you don't ever lose touch with people. Here we are,
you and me.
Right.
But you don't lose touch. You don't burn bridges, ever. You make up with people. You apologize. It's like 12 steps. You apologize to anybody you have wronged. Those are what keep me going.
You know, Jan, I am so glad you mentioned that about apologizing. I'm gonna talk about me for a second, because you'll probably have a story too. Some of our best clients are the ones that we messed up on. Whatever could have gone wrong went wrong, but we didn't sidestep it. We didn't blame somebody else. We didn't say it's not our fault. And a lot of times, though, I get those calls because they go, "I want to talk to the boss." Yeah. You go, "I'm sorry. Let me find out." I've also learned.
Let me find out.
Some clients
let me take
aren't
notes.
the best clients. So there's two sides to every story.
Absolutely.
Right? And I find out both sides, and when it's our fault, I go,
Hey.
Guess what we're going to do, salesman or whoever did? We're going to go apologize, and we're going to go fix it, and we're going to get it right, and it's not going to cause them any more problem. They're our best clients.
Absolutely.
Best
and
reviews.
I can give you examples. One just is one of those scars that you live through. But to tell a manager, when you know there's a complaint, you take your agent by the hand and you go with them out to the people's house to see what they're talking about.
Wow.
And you can
That's
diffuse 90% of it. 90%. Another thing is you let people cool off. I don't know how many times they're always mad on a Friday because the closing didn't happen or something. Let it go. Let everybody cool off. We'll handle this on Monday morning. But you also handle, Judge taught us. He taught us several things that Chase may want to know about. It's keep it simple, stupid. The KISS
Yes.
theory. And it is kind, courteous, and sometimes courageous, but you return every call. And you return it within 24 hours, where the Real Estate Commission gives us 48 to do stuff. No, you do it within 24. Do your job and do it today. Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. You just get it done.
That's some good words.
I don't know how many times, just get it done.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. I tell the guys sometimes, it's probably on the bad side, it's not going to be as bad as you think. And on the good side, it may not be as good as you think. So, look at it with real, but own up to what you did or didn't do.
Another thing that I have said over and over again, that I said to this agent that called me this morning, just breathe. Just take a breath. Yes. And I said, you're dealing with a family, and the family dynamics, you're not part of that family. So just look at them from a distance. They're trying to involve you, and you're not involved in their family, because it was a divorce case. And divorces and people in grief are the hardest people to deal with.
Yeah, that is tough.
And again, you just learn from experience.
Right.
So you may not be old enough yet.
It's beautiful. What you're saying is awesome.
Yeah, and I'm going to wrap it up. I mean, Jan, we talked about going from a little company to a big company, and you going from being at home and then getting called in part-time and teaching, and then executive vice president of a huge company that's now even in Oklahoma. But what brought tears to your eyes
was family.
To me too, it all really comes back down to the people you love.
That's right.
And hopefully we can build Dallas with love.
Yep.
What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Oh, Jan, that was more than I thought.
Yeah.
How do you tissue?
Do you remember a guy that probably did about the same thing?
Thanks for tuning in to Building Dallas, where we bring the stories that shaped North Texas. Subscribe, share, and stay connected. Until next time, keep building. Building Dallas is presented by Arrington Roofing, keeping North Texas covered, rain or shine.